Hello, and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today's video is about overcoming self-judgment and cultivating deeper self-love and unity. And the reason I brought this up is because it is something that I have struggled with in my past, and from time to time, being human, I still grapple with. So I wanted to share some insights I've had during meditation from my higher self about this subject, because I've done a lot of inner work recently in the last couple of months, especially on this topic. And one thing that kept coming up for me that was a pain point was this idea of judging my past self for mistakes I have made, and just shame and guilt and sadness, and looking back and feeling like I wasted my time or hurt people around me. And I feel like this could probably help a lot of people, because I'm sure I'm not the only person who's ever experienced this. So I'll sort of share what insights I was given when asking the question, why do I continue to feel pain from the past resurfacing even to this day? Why can't I let this go? Most importantly, how can I look at this from a higher perspective and see it from my higher self's point of view? So I asked my higher self, I have so much pain from the memories of my past where I've made poor choices and hurt myself and those around me. Please help me to see things from a greater perspective. How can I purify my outlook to be one with my past self? And I received an answer, and it took place in the form of experiencing it internally, and then when I felt that I had received the information, I then wrote it down, and it sort of channeled through in a more tangible form. And what I was told was, remember that you have and have always had the choice to follow your highest path. In each of those moments, there existed a golden thread, representing the highest possible thought available to you in that moment. For some, and during what you may consider your lowest moments, this golden thread may be nearly imperceptible, comparable to a spider silk or a fine hair. It is present as a brief glimmer in the light. Imagine that it is tied loosely about the waist, offering gentle nudges from an immeasurable distance. To be in touch with this guidance now means that you have already, at some point, begun to grasp the golden thread and scale upwards and forwards along your path. To look back and observe your past self blindly stumbling and groping for the thread is to scale backward and forget your place where you are now, while your future self is looking back at you at this moment, watching you let go and wander lost, and is contemplating doing the same. The golden thread is the mind's focus on the essence of being, not being guided by the ego and false perception, but rather by connection to Source and embodiment of Source in each moment. It is the access point to your highest inspiration and the tether to walking and remaining dedicated to the golden path. Regret, fear, shame, and guilt are self-defeating and are projections of the mind, acting as blindfolds to inspiration and acceptance. And the mind that chooses to dwell in these will experience a cyclical rumination, likened to that of a compass at one of your planet's poles. The insistence upon this state of being throughout a period of time finds oneself entrenched within the compounding layers of repetition, while the golden thread remains ever present, but it is, by a matter of choice, nearly invisible. To fixate on one's past misguidance is to deny the guidance being freely offered in this moment. To aimlessly search and insatiably thirst for a solution in an intangible mirage, by creating separation in the resistance of what occurred or ought to have occurred. Among these projections and their wheel-like momentum, there is the golden thread, the unbiased truth of the present moment, radiant and illuminated in the stillness of the mind. The one who, out of self-love and acceptance, chooses to grasp the golden thread and embody the highest possible thought and action will eventually reconcile all perceived debts and find the golden thread has woven trust and dedication into a rope that grows stronger yet throughout a lifetime. One sees that evolution of the soul is catalyzed by experience, choice, and reflection, so that the opportunity is presented to correct imbalances in the next experience with the next choice. Basically, if there's something you want to do in this life that makes you really happy, holding on to the past version of yourself and looking backward, as time goes on, you'll see that it's simply a pattern that keeps repeating itself. 6 months from now, if you haven't accepted that part of yourself that you've been looking back on, that version of you 6 months from now in the future will be looking back at you on this moment and seeing you lost now. So at some point, here in the present moment, it is you in the present that must decide to accept yourself fully, because it's not going to simply resolve itself over time. The thing that creates the resolution is your acceptance of it. You can spend your life ruminating on your self-judgments and worries, or you can spend your life accelerating and expanding and growing yourself as a spiritual being and as a human being and achieving your highest potential. But if you're getting in your own way and you're holding on to pain by matter of punishing yourself mentally and emotionally, then how can one heal? The healing, I feel, is actually in the expansion itself. There's sort of a misunderstanding that somehow in doing this, you are denying the pain and sweeping it under the rug. That's really not the case. What we're trying to achieve here is unifying your current self with your past self by matter of self-acceptance. So you're actually integrating the pain and transmuting it into your next level of awareness, rather than hindering yourself out of some idea that you're not worthy of expanding because you made this mistake as a person in your past, whatever that is to you. You're actually taking that on and saying, I accept myself for who I was then. I accept myself for who I am now. I love my past self, just as my higher self loves me in each moment, even though I make mistakes. The higher self sees no mistakes. The higher self sees only possibilities and infinite pathways before you. It's capable of seeing everything from sort of a timeless, spaceless perspective into your life. It sees the vortex of probability that you're faced with in any given moment. It accepts you because the higher self is already a unified being. And in order to become a unified being, it must love all parts of itself. It must love all iterations of its own creation. And that is you in each moment. So to embody the higher self, you must look at yourself with the perspective of your higher self and see your past as what brought you to this moment here, to where you are and to where you are going. It is beautiful and part of living to have experiences and make choices and then have reflections. So this is a reflection period for you of your previous experience and choices. In this reflection period, you create a new experience and thereby new choices going forward. Right, so my audio actually cut out because the battery in my microphone died, and it cut off what I was saying. I don't remember everything I said, but I think in short, I was getting to the point that when you reflect back on your past, and if it's a painful memory or something like that, and you have the capacity to look back on it now and even feel guilt or shame or what have you, that means that you've actually reached a consciousness that's greater than the consciousness you were at the time that you're reflecting upon. Meaning that you know what you know now, and you are wanting to apply that to your past self and wishing you had known this or had known that. And if anything, it's an indication that you've grown as a person, that you've changed through time. And that's something within itself that's worthy of being celebrated. So know that you have done the best you could until this moment with what you knew at the time. And you are who you are now because of what you've experienced and because of what you've learned. And let's see if we can focus our attention forward and into who we want to be, and see how much progress we can make with that kind of outlook on life, rather than thinking we need to go back in the past and fix past mistakes, or wishing something had or hadn't happened the way that it did. And my challenge to you is to look some time period into the future, 6 months, a year, somewhere around there, and think about the kind of frequency you'd like to be vibrating at that time, and see if you can't begin embodying that now. And every day it's going to get a little bit easier, easing into this new version of yourself, and to not allow your past to hold you back from becoming the person that you want to be. So, thank you for listening, and that concludes this particular message. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and namaste.